Hello, my friends. Are we here? Are we live? How is it going? Let's see. According to YouTube, you're still waiting for me to start, but I am chatting here. All right, let's see. I have to double check these windows. Oh, here we go. Hello, my friends. Okay, hopefully this is all working now. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Today I thought I would just share a little bit about moths. Now that now that summer's almost here for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, it's time to put away our woolies. And I thought I'd do it live just because I can point things more and turn the camera more. Usually if I'm doing a recorded broadcast, I have a camera set up and then I have to stand here and talk. So let's see, I think, okay, there are two chats. I'm never quite sure on how this is going. So hopefully that's the chat you'll see. The one where I just typed chat exclamation point. Okay, so moths, that's what we're here to talk about. Those big little jerks. They're these guys. Can you see those little, I want to use really bad words and I'm trying to make this, safe for work and for children. But these are the enemy. This is a pheromone moth trap. I got it on Amazon. It came as a pack of 3. I will be putting together like a little handout of links and stuff that'll probably be ready next week. But you can see it's the Aries Mott-Lock Moth box. Like I said, it came as a set of 3. It was not cheap, but it seemed to help. I say it seemed to help because the thing is that these little guys, you see those little ones? Those are the men. Those are the males. When you see them flitting around, you know you have a problem, but they're not really the ones you need to kill. You need to get the female moth, and she is hiding in the back of your closet or the bottom of your trunk or whatever. And she's the one who's going to lay the eggs, and the eggs turn into the larvae that will eat through everything before they become the floating jerks that we know. So it's really the larvae who cause the problem, who cause all the damage. And so even if you catch all the males in these traps, and they're pheromone traps, so they're baited with the pheromone smell of the female, but that doesn't mean that killing them all will solve your problem. The eggs are really hardy. Even the moths themselves are fairly hardy if left alone. And that's the thing about these moths, and these are clothes moths. These are what are called webbing clothes moths. These aren't pantry moths. These aren't the moths that come flitting in when you light a candle outside in the summer or whenever. You know, they're not the ones that are attracted to light. These little moths, they're these sort of dun-colored beige. They're like the color of packing tape. They are the ones, they like the dark. They like to be left alone in the dark to make babies and have those babies eat all of your beautiful things. Your wool, your silk, your feathers, alpaca, pretty much any animal fiber, including, and especially of note, animal fur, cat fur, feathers, like down feathers from your pillows or your duvet, your cat's dander and fur that gets everywhere. I mean, anytime I move a piece of furniture, I find piles of George fur, and they love that stuff. They can live off that, and it can get like just under your refrigerator or your washing machine, or even under, you have a bookcase that you think is flat on the floor. Well, there's a little crack between the floor and the end, like you can get fur in there, whatever, dust, and the eggs of these moths are so tiny that they look like sand. So if you pull something out of the closet and you're like, why is this covered in sand? that may not be sand. And that's one of the things I discovered. So the backstory is that last summer we came back from Maine, and I opened up our front hall closet. So I'm in what's our sort of laundry room. It's also my stash and studio. It looks really nice now, but that's because I basically spent all last September demothing and making this space a different, better, more improved space. So we came home, I opened the front hall closet, which is right outside this door, and something fluttered out. One of these jerks, probably more than one. And of course I immediately panicked. The front hall closet stores, you know, winter coats, boots, sporting equipment. It had some other random stuff in there too. And then that is of course right next door to here where I keep my stash and sweater samples. But I also had two like old dressers that we had, like somebody in the building had been given away, and we took them. They were free. They were ugly, and but they seemed fine. And I stored most of my knitted things in there, so sweaters and samples and stuff. And yeah, and I found a few moths in there too. So they were like, this was the hot zone. This end of the apartment, where all the wool, most of the wool is. Was the hot zone. And after totally freaking out and wanting to cry so hard, I, you know, it is my personality to be like, well, crying isn't going to do me any good. Let's fix this problem. So I embarked on research, a lot of research, and then a lot of really hard just work. So the first thing to do if you find moths is to contain the problem. So the first thing I did was I went out and I bought, here I'm going to tip this up a little so you can see up there, those are these Rubbermaid bins. They're great. I got them at Target. Those hinges, the lid comes down, and the lid has like a little sort of spongy seal around the edge of the lid, and then you clamp the lids on with those little blue, there. I can't do this very well. Anyway, those are great, and they also stack up and they can like nest in each other for putting, you know, for storing. So those are, no, they're not Rubbermaid, I'm sorry. They are Sterilite. I had some Rubbermaid bins, but I think that those aren't as airtight. And we can talk a little bit more about the benefits and problems of airtight storage. But the plastic bins were the first defense. I just dumped everything out into those, sealed them up. I used to, instead of these pretty blue boxes here, I had everything in, they were from IKEA. They were paperboard boxes with lids that you could remove. And I thought, like, well, that's good, a lid and everything, you know, but amongst the many things I learned in all my research is that the larvae will eat through paper, including cardboard, or cotton to get at what they want, to get at the wool, the cashmere, the alpaca, the vicuna, the kiviot, the silk, the feathers, whatever it is that is precious to you, they will go for it. So I got rid of those paperboard bins. They always sort of came apart anyway. They were fine. They would have been fine for storing papers and stuff, but I just felt that they, one, they're made out of paper, and two, there's no way you can wipe them down with anything. And what you really, I'll get back to that in a second. So those just had to go. They all went in the recycling bin. Everything went into those plastic bins to be stored, so it could sort of contain the damage and, you know, just get on with the business of checking everything, demothifying. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw the demothify hashtag that I used. And I was like, pretty much all of last September and into October. So discovering that you have a problem, number one, if you see the little guys fluttering around, you have a problem that you need to deal with. And denial will get you nowhere. I really, I think I may have had a couple of days of denial when we got home from Maine, and then it was just like, I can't deny this any longer. It's only going to cause more damage. So the sooner you catch it, the better. So contain everything in plastic containers that won't let those little jerks in or out. The next step is to vacuum everything and wipe everything down with vinegar. My apartment smelled like a pickle factory. I was like pickled. I bought, oh my God, this is heavy. Just the cheap white jug vinegar. I got it at Target. You can find it at your grocery store. Get the jug that's down on the bottom shelf. Don't get the fancy stuff. Don't get the little bottles. Get the big bottle and get yourself a spray bottle. You can repurpose something else, you know, but I just was at Target and they had this, you know, for like $1. And let's see if the vinegar price is even on here. It isn't. And I want to find out why it says Best Buy $3.19. Does vinegar go bad? I don't think it does. So I think that's a sort of random product of industrialized America that we have an expiration date on a jug, a big plastic jug of vinegar. And then, of course, the other thing is paper towels. I know. I love the environment. I recycle everything. And I always have. My mom did before me. You know, we are doing our best to make the world a better place and maintain it. But sometimes you just have to go nuclear. And a moth infestation, if you are a knitter, that is the time. Same if you are like a cashmere sweater collector or whatever. But okay, so you've contained everything. You vacuum everything. You wipe everything down with vinegar, including your vacuum and the attachments, because the little eggs can get like just sort of caught in a, anyway, just trust me, wipe everything down, throw out the paper towels, bag everything up in black plastic trash bags and throw it out. And I'm going to tell you a little story about a black plastic trash bag. So one of the things that was in our front hall closet, in addition to, you know, our coats, were my LL Bean shearling like low boots, and I'd had them for probably 5 years. They were my favorite thing. Every winter I'm like, yay, I get to get out my little boots. And they're really warm, they're shearling lined, they're lovely. So I had wiped down like every shoe or boot. I would spritz with vinegar with my spray bottle, wipe it down, you know, just to make sure, because you can tread in moth eggs, because like I said, it looks like sand. So so I decided eventually, I was like, I'm still a little worried about the moths, and I know these are shearling lined, and even though I sprayed them with vinegar and I vacuumed them, I'm gonna seal them up until I need them in the winter, because it was September. And I thought, just to be safe. So I sealed them up in a black plastic trash bag, just tied it in a knot, put it in the front hall under a piece of furniture. Just like, okay, that's like out in the open sort of, but it's contained. So come December, I think it was December, we were getting ready to go to Chicago, and I was like, I'm gonna need my boots. It snowed there. I open the bag and a moth flies out. I can't even, you can't make this stuff up. So like this had been in a bag for September, October, November, like at least 3, maybe 4 months. Sealed plastic bag. You know, it's not, of course, airtight or anything. It's not vacuum sealed, but you know, nothing new was getting in. And the only thing that came out was a moth. Okay, so that should put the fear of the moth into you and respect its like how long it can be dormant, and how long it can survive. So yeah, it's you can't trust that just cleaning is going to be enough. It's constant vigilance. Unfortunately, I hate to tell you this, but it's true. Yeah, so that was a really, really, really upsetting part. So, okay, so I've wiped everything down. I got rid of those old dressers. Even though I wiped them all down with vinegar, I couldn't. I had actually found some moths in knits inside there. And so I just couldn't. Even though I, cleaned it all, it didn't matter to me. I couldn't handle it. So I ended up getting this piece of furniture. It's from IKEA. It's, I'll give you sort of the tour. It's got a glass top, and then it's got these drawers down here. Jane's kind of in the way, but it's got one narrow, one shallow, and two bigger drawers where I do keep woolens in there. See? Most of them are sealed up in plastic bags though, which I don't, but that's because they're in the dark, and as I may have said, if I haven't, I will say it somewhere. And again, moths, these moths, clothes moths, they like to be left alone in the dark. Okay, so if you have, so what I started doing is every day I would open the front hall closet. Even though it was September and nobody was going in that closet, that was part of the problem, was that they would just be left in there, and they had been left in there for a while we were in Maine. And it was dark and quiet and cozy. And oh, George is coming in. Hey, George. How are you? Come here. Hold on. Come here. Say hello to the people. Here's George. As you can see, George has beautiful fur, and the moths love that fur. So, George, say hello to the people. Georgie. Okay. And he, of course, would be interested when he'd see a moth, but, not very helpful. Okay? Are you going to be here? All right, I guess I'll leave that door open. So that's the front hall, and then right on the other side here is the closet. The closet of doom. That ended up being the real hot zone. I vacuumed everywhere. I vacuumed along the crevices, along the baseboard molding. I would lift up, there are 2 shelves in it, lift those shelves up and vacuum in there. Because they were like sit in a bracket, dust, and moth eggs would get down on those little ledges and underneath, and of course they don't mind those kind of tight spaces. They're very small. So it just anywhere and everywhere that could possibly contain a moth egg. And if you have carpeting, I'm sorry, because I think they can get trapped in there really easily, or get, settled down in there, even under the carpeting. And that's when you have a real problem. I was reading somebody's blog post who said, the only way I'm going to eventually be able to completely get rid of moths in my house is to get rid of the carpeting, pull off the baseboards, clean behind there, and seal everything back up tightly. So if you have an older home, that is definitely going to be an issue. I have to just open a door for George, so I'm sorry, I'm going to leave the screen for a second. George, do you need to go in there? Sorry, I'm back. This is the danger with my studio, which is also the laundry room and underbox storage. So, okay. We have cleaned every surface. I mean, like every surface, like up to the ceiling. In this room, we have our kids' artwork up on the walls, framed, like the special pieces that we really loved. And I took a picture, took every piece down, wiped it down with vinegar, vacuumed it behind, around the rim where where the frame meets the backing board, and then put it all back up. So you never know what you might find. I found a moth behind it. So there's a little bathroom in here, and behind the frame of a piece, just like a framed poster in there, I found a moth. So everywhere, wiped down everywhere, floors. I don't think I did the ceilings, but because they tend to like lower places. But like from eye level down, everything should be wiped down. Okay, so you've vacuumed, you've vinegared, you smell like a pickle. Now you have to actually deal with, and that would include things like the inside, all the shelves. Like if I were to if I needed to do it again here with my new piece, take the shelves out, wipe them down, wipe down every surface inside, outside, underneath, on the top. Just the best thing you can do is be thorough about it. Okay, so we've wiped down everything. Everything is clean and it's actually safe to receive your demothified stuff. Now you have to start demothifying the stuff itself. Okay, so you've got your bins. Remember, we have those bins. They are full of stuff. Mine are really mostly full of plastic bags and some really random things right now. But at the time, they were filled with my knitted samples, my stash, anything that had been in this room, basically, and or in the front hall closet. And to be honest, we got rid of a lot of stuff. I never needed 3 winter coats, and it just sort of happened that I needed a long one at some point, and then my mother-in-law gave me her old one that she didn't wear anymore. I wore that for a long time, and then I found a new one that I really liked more. And so I ended up getting rid of 2 of the coats, having the 3rd dry cleaned. And dry cleaning is the other way you can take care of things. But we are knitters. We are talking about wool, skeins and balls and cones of yarn, as well as our knitted samples. So the first thing to do is to wash all of your sweaters and knits and whatever. And you should be doing this every time you put them away for a long period of time. Like over the winter, I wear my sweaters and my scarves and hats and gloves and all of that. To get ready for the off season, for a summer's nap, you need to wash everything. Use your preferred wool wash. I am using a soak wash. Actually, I use the unscented now for the most part, but just because I've gotten really sensitive to smells. But soak is great. Really, anything, shampoo, whatever you like to use to wash your wool, your knits, use that. Just make sure it's gentle and lay everything flat to dry. That should take care of rinsing away any eggs and any larvae that might be in there. And then you're going to want to store them. Now, most of the time, these have been stored, my sweaters here, since, whenever I put this piece together, I think in October, late September. And what I like about it is that it has the glass doors, so light is always getting in. This isn't a particularly sunny room. It faces south, but it faces a big apartment building, so it's like indirect sunlight. But it's bright enough. It's not a dark room. It's not a dim room, and so I feel better knowing that light is getting in there. And I come in, I come in here to do stuff and get things out, and I open these regularly, and I look in the drawers regularly too, just to make sure. Because, like, generally, if you open a drawer or a door to something and a moth flies out, you have a problem. Okay, so the woolies, the sweaters and the gloves and the mittens and all that stuff, those are pretty easy to take care of. Store them in a fairly airtight container off season, but don't plan on storing them that way for years. It's best to take everything out and check it, probably once or twice a year at the least. So I think of putting it away in the spring, and then I'll get things out in the fall as I start to need them. And just, I don't have room to dry 17 sweaters at once, and have even more than that. But just sort of do it, make it part of your routine. Find a safe place for them to dry too. The good thing for us is that the rest of the apartment was relatively moth-free. It really was. This was the hot zone, this area, the front hall closet in this room. So, which was a relief to not find anything in other rooms. And so that I knew I could dry my sweaters in my room or the kids' rooms when they were at school, and not have to worry about them possibly getting reinfested or whatever. Okay, so the big job, though, was the stash. Yeah. And in all my research, what really became clear to me is that you either need extreme heat or extreme cold. And extreme is relative. It's so I think it was like over 170 degrees Fahrenheit or below 18 degrees Fahrenheit or something. So, like, that can't be right. It was below freezing. So over 170 degrees for like at least 20 minutes or a few days to a week at freezing, which is 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius, centigrade. I don't remember, you know what I mean. So what I decided to do was to bake all my yarn. Luckily, my oven has a low or warming setting, and that was, I think, 200 degrees. And basically what I'd do is I'd fill up I have like rimmed cookie sheets, and make sure they're clean, load it up with 1 layer of wool, make sure the racks were far enough apart so that the wool on the bottom wouldn't touch, stick them in the oven, and I think when I did 2 at a time, I would do it for like an hour. I think the minimum you'd want to do is like half an hour. So somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes would be the amount of time to cook your yarn for 200 degrees. Don't go much higher. I mean, you can do some research as to what the highest safe temperature for wool or animal fiber is. But in all the research I did, that came out as the safe thing to do. And then I had to wind it all. So we pull out one of these bins so you can see. So these bins, everything is now encased in plastic. It has all been wound. It's really pretty and lovely, and part of me just hates it all. Not really, but like it just became this. So that was my job. I would sit. I think I put on basically 30 Rock on Netflix and just let it run. And I set up my winder, and I would bring out a tray and start winding. And I'm winding it to check it, to make sure that there is no damage. And the way you know if your yarn is damaged is if it's broken in multiple places. And I actually only found a few skeins that were really broken. The moth damage was really clear. And in fact, the one that I'm thinking of right now is this Blue-Faced Lesser from Handmaiden. It was this raspberry pink, really pretty yarn. It was lace weight. And I put it on the winder, put it on the Swift, and started winding it, and got a break. It's like, okay. And sometimes, yarn can break. It's old, or it's been sitting around for a while, or whatever. There are reasons. But then start winding again, and you get like this much more, and another break. And at that point, it became clear that that had suffered an infestation. So out that went. The good thing about baking the stash and winding it and going through it is it was really an opportunity for me to be honest about all of it. And so the stuff that's here, and I'd say it's only like 6 of these bins. And there are a lot more bins. I have like, oh, you shouldn't see that. That's knitted samples for filament, for the winter filament. So some of it is work storage. That top one just has like project bags that aren't in use, and my button jar, things like that. So I think like 6 or 7 of these actually have stash yarn. This is a 16 square, whatever it's called. It's from IKEA. You know it. They changed the name of it. So I have the old one, but the new one's basically the same thing. And I have books in 5 of them. There's some more sewing books down at the bottom. So it was really an opportunity for me to go through the stash and be honest with myself about what I was going to ever bother to knit, and get rid of a lot of stuff. So I got rid of, I probably had more like 9 or 10 bins of yarn beforehand. And so I definitely got rid of a couple. So that was kind of actually therapeutic. It's hard. Sometimes therapy is really painful, and it definitely was. And just this, I was spending all my time doing this, not knitting, not writing patterns, not interacting with folks, not doing the sweater. It was hard. It was not fun. But it was really necessary, and it was really important to me to check all of my yarn. So winding everything, was important. And most of my stash is animal fiber. You know, it's wool, silk, things like that. There's a little bit of cotton. And I did some research, and I don't remember now. I'll have to go back and figure it out in terms of other fibers. You do want to check your fiber content. If you have a lot of acrylic and nylon, those shouldn't be baked. At least not in an oven, not in like 200 degrees. So do your research if you have a lot of blends that aren't just animal fiber before you stick everything in the oven, or you could end up with like plasticated goo, which you do not want. There are a few other ways you could consider making sure your stash is moth-free. I read about one. If it's the height of summer, stick everything in bin bags and big black plastic trash bags, or you could just stick your bins like I have into your car if you have a car, and close up that car, park it in a sunny spot, and do it maybe a couple days in a row. The black bin bags are better actually because the black plastic tends to increase the heat that's happening inside. So that's a possibility. Unfortunately, since it was September, like the heat wave broke soon after we got home, and by the time I was ready to like deal with this part of the issue, it wasn't hot enough during the day. So that wasn't an option for me. The other option that wasn't available to me is if you live outside of the city and you have a deep freeze, one of those big chest freezers, or a separate dedicated freezer somewhere in your home, lucky you, you could stick everything in there for like a week. I'm not sure the actual number of days because of course I only have like the freezer bottom of my refrigerator. We have a nice decent sized freezer, but there's not room to stick my stash in there and still make use of it as we do regularly for my family. So feeding the people was a priority, and I figured out another solution for not feeding the moths. And of course, feeding the moths, remember that like the oils in your skin, they love perspiration. And then this is the larvae who eat everything. So that's why washing your clothes is a preventative measure. Washing your woolens, and that's really preventative. And then freezing or baking everything is going to kill things. It's going to kill the larvae. I have some notes over here, so I'm going to just double check. Yeah. The eggs look like sand. Again, that's something to keep in mind. Okay. Oh, I know the next thing. Hold on. Didn't get the top of my head. So near the end of my trauma, I rewarded myself with a break at Rhinebeck, which is the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, and it's like the third weekend in October. It is my happy place. I love going there. I love seeing you all, meeting with you, talking with you, seeing the yarn, seeing my friends, making new friends, and going to the Simpler Time booth. It's in the White Barn. I will find a map and I will highlight that. But if you're not going to Rhinebeck, it's okay. I just discovered that they are on Etsy, and it's Thyme, T-H-Y-M-E, like the herb. They make this thing called Moth Beware. It's like a moth potpourri. It's got cedar chips, some proprietary blend. I know there are bay leaves in there because I can see them. Bay leaves, cedar chips. I think there's some lavender. I don't know what else is in there, but it smells delicious. It smells really good. It makes me really happy. There's something sort of mentholated. Not quite sure what it is. Anyway, this is great. This is great stuff. It smells good anyway. And I finally caved and I bought the big bag this year and a bunch of little bags to put it in. But I've mostly used those little bags to give people a little sample of the moth away. And what I do, hold on, in the cabinet here on each of the shelves and in the drawers, I use an old glass yogurt jar, and I fill it up with this, and I set it in like in the corner of the drawer, and it smells really good. The thing about things like cedar, lavender, is that they are they're a deterrent. They confuse the scent receptors of the moths and sort of send them off like, this is not the food you're looking for. These are not the droids you're looking for. So it's not truly, you know, a lot of people say, oh, cedar, I have cedar. Just having cedar is not a safeguard for your woolens against moths. I hate to say it. If you have like a cedar chest or a cedar closet and you maintain it properly, it is a good safe thing. But by maintaining it properly, that's like you have to sand it down regularly. It always needs to smell like cedar to be helpful. And it helps if it's an enclosed thing like a chest or a closet that really can basically kind of seal up. But you know, if you rely on that, it is a dark, quiet place. And if you don't, if things aren't aromatic enough, it's not really going to do the job. The number one thing to do to take care of your woolens is to wash them. Hello, George. George is back again. Okay, he's going to wander off. So every time I open this, and I like doing it anyway, I like looking in there and seeing all my pretty woolens. Oh, look at that. Every time I open this, it smells like the moth beware. So it's really good stuff. It smells pretty. It makes me happy when I smell it. I also have put like little, I have smaller muslin bags. They sell them too. The Simpler Time people, they sell their moth beware. They sell the little bags. So I put little bags, fill them up, and hang them from like the hangers of my wool coats in the coat closet. They also sell, what is it? Is it in here? I thought it was in here, but I'm not sure. They sell a refresher oil, and I bought a vial of that as well, and that's also on their Etsy shop. So I really highly recommend. They're really nice people. They have handmade soaps. They're always there at Rhinebeck. I don't know if they go to any other wool festivals, but they're definitely at that one, and I was so glad I discovered them. And the smell, George, stop it. Sorry. So I highly recommend. Let's see if I can show you what it looks like. Oh, there's my, got a little scoop in here, but there it is. I love this stuff. It really, really, really smells good. So it's a good deterrent, like I said. Okay. So you have washed all your woolies. You are storing them away somewhere, either airtight or someplace with light. This isn't airtight, you know, but it is. So for the summer, I think I probably will put everything in bins. I will unnest those plastic bins up there and put all of these sweaters in there, just to be safe, because I don't want bad things to happen, especially when we are away. Then I can't, you know, be coming in and opening. Literally, once I found that the front hall closet was the hot zone, I would open the doors every day, multiple times a day. I would inspect my 3 gluey pheromone traps. Like I said, Motlock. I don't get any kind of kickback or anything, but these are for sale on Amazon. And they did a good job. There are a lot of those little jerks in there. This is only one. I have 3 of them. And at first I had like 1 in here and 1 maybe closer to the like living dining area just to see, and 1 in the front hall closet. And the front hall closet was where I was finding them all. So eventually all 3 ended up in there. Okay, what else can I tell you? The larvae are the wool eaters, simpler time. So Simpler Time, SIMPLER space THYME. It's probably all run together on Etsy. They have an Etsy shop. They also have a regular website, but you know, if you're already shopping on Etsy, it's really easy to just order from them. And it's good stuff. And it smells really good. They will eat through paper and cotton. Okay. All right. So you've taken care of, we have taken care of everything that is already in our possession, our stash, our samples, our knitted things, our space where we store things. I also, for storage and working on projects, I tend to now really only have 1 or 2 things going at a time. And I keep those quarantined there in their own project bag. And I threw all of my project bags like into the dryer. So anything that you can safely put in the dryer for, say, half an hour, you can do that too. And that will help kill the larvae or the eggs, I guess, and the larvae too. I don't think I said this before, but the reason to pickle everything, to spray everything with vinegar and wipe it down, is that the eggs themselves are actually kind of delicate as far as an acidic environment, the acidic pH environment. So using the vinegar breaks down the coating on the eggs, is what I remember reading. And that's why you should use the vinegar. It's sort of like an added, adding an insult to the injury of trying to get rid of them. So that's why the vinegar. You could also probably do a vinegar rinse on your knits if you're washing them, just for an extra layer of security. I don't think I did that, but it's definitely something worth considering. Okay, right, and the wool wash, when you are washing your things, they will get rid of the oils. And that's the thing about the garments is, of course, that you've been wearing them, perspiration, body oil. You're just like, you know, we are oily people. We are oily creatures. That's part of being human. But the moth larvae really like that. So you want to get rid of all that stuff before you store things. And food, like actual food, they of course love that. Don't put away your sweater with your greasy pizza fingers on it. Okay. Oh, and the other thing about like cedar and lavender and stuff, the other thing is mothballs. Just don't. Mothballs are toxic and they don't really work. They smell gross and it's toxic. Like, not just to moths, to humans, to your pets. So I really strongly discourage you to think that you can deal with it through mothballs. You're just not going to be able to. The best thing to do, prevention is the best thing. So preventing them from wanting to be on your knits and on your wool in the first place is the way to go. And that's through washing everything. And George, stop it. Sorry. This is the danger of live as opposed to my recording and then cutting that kind of stuff out. George! He's trying to get in the washer dryer area, which is weirdo. Okay, so let's see. Does anybody have any questions? Hi, Kunini. You've heard they don't like moisture, like a high moisture environment. You know, I don't know. I think there may be something to that. I think you're less likely to find moths in a desert environment, if I recall correctly. They don't like being wet. They have those little delicate wings. So, but I don't know. I mean, I think you really don't rely on where you are protecting you. Because they can come in, like I said, they could come in. We don't really know where they came from. They could have come in on a shoe. They could have, you know, come in on my shearling boots at some point last winter. They may have come in. My neighbors, after their cat passed away, they gave us their. They had a cat carrier, like a fold-down one, and we just had like a solid plastic hard side one. So she's like, if you want it, you know, here it is. So there may have been some moth eggs in there. Of course, that would have had some cat fur on it. It may have come in on, you know, an old rug. Be careful what you bring home. I'm much more paranoid now about bringing things home from a stoop sale, a yard sale, a flea market, even an antique shop, and certainly from like the Salvation Army or Goodwill or something. I'm much more cautious about what I bring home in terms of clothes and furnishings and just everything. I'm just more paranoid now. So, you know, if you find a beautiful rug and you buy it, and even if you buy it from you know, buy it new from a store, it's worth being cautious. And of course, I like to buy natural fiber things. I don't like buying polypropylene rugs. I like buying wool rugs. But the best advice is to get it clean before you even bring it in your home. And that the same thing goes for like your stash. Quarantine it. You know, you bring it home. It's been in a wool shop, presumably. It's been stored, presumably in a moth-free place. But better safe than sorry. Quarantine it away. Inspect it, wind it right away, maybe bake it. I haven't gotten quite that paranoid where I bake everything that I bring home, but maybe I should. I tend to keep it stored by itself separately from the stash, although as you can see, the stash yarn is all stored in Ziploc bags, which I know, again, this is like I said earlier that I'm really not quite an eco-warrior, but I am very conscious of my footprint, and I try to recycle everything I can. I prefer using wool, glass, cotton. I don't like using things and throwing them away. I don't like a lot of plastic, but there are times and places where that's just what you need to be safe, be cautious with. So, so everything is stored in a Ziploc bag. The problem with moisture, to get back to the question about a moist environment, what are you doing? Everything's sealed up in a bag. Make sure it's really, really dry first. You don't want to seal up any moisture in there. You will get mold, so you don't want that. Sorry, I don't know what he was doing. What else was I going to say? Yeah, oh, so the quarantine. Definitely, like, give it some time, or knit it up right away, and then wash it. And then, you know, like, you really, I don't know, I feel like sometimes once a thing is knitted up, it's safer, it's easier to, like, check it and to sort of keep it safe somehow, like a skein. There are all those little nooks and crannies in this twisted skein, or even a cake or a ball. That is a good suggestion, to leave your wool purchases in the trunk of your car before introducing it to your stash. That again goes back to, you know, what I was saying. One of the ways to get rid of moths is to, like, put everything. But if you leave it in the trunk of your car, make sure that. What am I trying to say? Make sure that it's hot or cold. Okay, so like either bake it or freeze it. So certainly storing, hiding your yarn that you're going to introduce to your stash in the trunk of your car is a good option. There we go. Now I can see your questions better. Certainly a good way to you know, sort of make sure your stash remains safe. Oh, George got under this piece of furniture. There's like this much space under, but he got under there. In terms of maintenance, you know, in addition to quarantining stash as you bring it in, my other bit of advice is regular cleaning. Vacuuming regularly everywhere, picking things up and vacuuming underneath, because that, like, layer of cat fur on the floor, which is just a fact of life in my house, is certainly a really easy breeding ground for moths. Okay, and the weird thing is, a month or two ago, it's been like a moth-free zone, which has been great. You know, got to the point where I didn't feel that I needed to open the closet doors every day. But then a couple months ago, I opened, so here, for those of you who've seen them, this is my laundry area. It's a little washer dryer in a closet. You may have seen it in the blocking episode of the last season of the sweater. And I opened that door and a little moth flew out. I was like, oh! I freaked out. And then I found a moth in so on the other side of this wall is the kitchen. And in one of the drawers, I found a moth flew out. And so I vacuumed everything out, I wiped everything down, I washed everything. That was the drawer that had all the kitchen towels, which are all cotton. And so I have a feeling that there are some, it's an old building, it's a pre-war building, and there are these little pockets, I think, here and there. And so I think it's just one of those areas that I realized I had to be vigilant about, and that there may be, like, somewhere in the vent. It's not a vent really, but the stack of things, there may have been some moth eggs that got away. I haven't seen anything since. I will continue my vigilance. And I always have my trusty spray bottle full of vinegar and my pile of paper towels and my moth away and my vacuum. And really, any vacuum is good. Just at the end of each vacuuming session, and this is going back to like step one. Well, step two. Step one is contain. Step two is clean. And be sure you empty your vacuum out after every cleaning session. Get rid of the bag. Wipe everything down with vinegar. I know that seems like really extreme, but it's better than like turning on your vacuum and having a bunch of moths fly out, which certainly is possible. Like as I told you the story earlier on, I had these shearling boots from LL Bean, and I contained them in a bag because I was worried that even though I had vacuumed them thoroughly inside and out, like I had a little nozzle attachment, I shoved it in the toe and like vacuumed thoroughly, wiped it all down with vinegar. But I was still worried because they are lined with shearling, so I sealed them up in a plastic bag, closed that bag up, put it in my apartment hallway, so it was like sort of more out in the open. And 3 months later, I opened that bag up and out flew a fucking moth. I'm sorry. I was trying to be all but it was an effort. And so I threw the boots out. I just sealed the bag back up and threw it out. And I was really sad because I loved those boots, but you just need to be constantly vigilant and aware. And I am sorry. Luckily, this is on my YouTube channel and nothing the FCC can come after me for, so I apologize. But it's really, really upsetting to have this happen. So, the upside is everything's all matchy-matchy now. It's pretty and it's organized, and I got a new piece of furniture. The downside is I spent a lot of money on this and a lot of time. Of course, I have a big stash. I am a knitwear designer. I have a lot of knitted samples. I wiped down every book with a vinegar sprayed paper towel, okay? Every book, everything. And so, like, in some ways, it was a really good chance for me to get rid of a lot of stuff. So from that, like, therapeutic and, like, KonMari, dealing with your stuff, it's really good, but it is really hard. I will say, I meant to say this earlier, these bins that I got, these are from IKEA. The reason I chose these is that they are open at the top. Open at the top. This is full of yarn. And they are made out of like nylon. I think there's cardboard inside. Actually, I think it's plastic inside, so it's sealed between in the correct thing. The reason vinegar at any time and wipe it down, and nothing would be ruined. No warping. That if I was using cardboard, that would be a problem. And they can fold up. They have like so it'd be really good. I feel like it will make my demothifying more efficient and effective than if I had stuck with paperboard. I do have some paperboard boxes from IKEA. Pretty, and they kind of match. I have a few of those. Those are just to store papers, though. And those are open as well, which I think. So this is my advice to you. Well, actually, okay, we have like 5 minutes left. Do you have any questions for me about what to do if you find a moth? If you're watching the replay of this, feel free to leave a comment below or drop me an email. If you are a newsletter subscriber for the sweater, and you should be, you can always hit reply to one of those. And if you haven't signed up for that, you can go to kathleengaines.com/thesweater and sign up there. But if you have any questions, you can ask them in the live chat, which I think is to the right of your view of the screen. I am totally happy to answer any other questions if I haven't covered everything. I'm looking over my notes here now while I'm giving you a little time to type. And yeah. I think I covered it all. I am going to work up a little like, well, I could write a book, but I think I'll work up maybe a little one-page PDF that I will send to everyone on the sweater newsletter, and it will also be available as a sort of little sign-up gifty. So I don't see any other questions, which is fine. I understand. I understand a lot of people are going to watch the replay. You can always ask a question in the comments, and I will check on this episode regularly and answer questions as they come in. But I will say, okay, so you see a moth. First, make sure it's a clothes moth. And I didn't get into carpet beetles, which are the other fiber-eating bug, because I'm knocking on wood. Engineered wood or whatever. Oh, Liz, you are welcome. I'm not happy to share my experience, but having experienced it, I want to share this with you and hopefully help you not go through the same thing. Okay, if you find a bug, even if you don't find a bug, contain things, clean things, heat or cold, vinegar is your friend. Check things regularly, toss the stash. The yarn harlot would talk about, I think she tosses the stash a couple times a year, as does my friend Julia Farwell Clay at Moth Heaven. She has a really good blog post. I will link to that. Toss your stash, check your knits, and keep them clean. When you're wearing them all winter long, don't worry about it. Remember, wool is fairly like dirt resistant, so I don't really wash my sweaters in the winter unless I get something on them. But when the season is ending, that's the time to wash everything, let it dry thoroughly, very thoroughly, especially if you're going to store it away in plastic. You don't want any moisture in there. And then store them carefully. Plastic is your friend for the short term. You also might want to look into like cotton pillowcases, the kinds that zip up. Some people really like those. IKEA also has some clothes storage bags. They are like open at the top, like there are hanger bags, that you would put like a suit bag or a dress bag. And I'm going to put my winter coat after it's dry cleaned in there. So just be vigilant. Don't let the moths get you down. If I can survive it, you can survive it. But be careful and be careful of things when they come home. The thing about the eggs, they look like sand, and the larvae are really, really, really small. You really can't see them even on close inspection sometimes. So the only way you're going to know that you have had moths is when you find the damage. And I mean, by then it's bad. You have damage. I only had like a couple damaged things. I had 2 damaged shawls. One of which is my own design, so I need to knit another one. And the other one was an Icarus, which I knit early on. It was beautiful. That yarn dyer is no longer dyeing yarn. It's just the past and it's gone. Luckily, my sweaters weren't none of them were damaged. But be careful, be vigilant, and ask me any questions anytime. You can find me, on Instagram at Kathleen Dames, and of course you can comment here on this episode or drop me an email, reply to a newsletter, and again, that's KathleenDames.com/thesweater. I hope you don't ever have moths, but prevention is the best thing you can do. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's good to talk to you. I haven't been doing much broadcasting for a while. I've been busy with other stuff, but I would like to maybe do some more regular live episodes because this is sort of the easiest thing. Just turn on my computer and talk to you guys. So thank you for being here. Mwah! Until next time, be vigilant. Don't let the moths get you down. Love you guys. Bye.